A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Hi, my name is Eddie Santos. I'm a retired Army Sergeant with more than 23 years, and I am a disabled vet. I've been all over the place trying to get assistance for my disability. And as for right now, the only person that seemed to help me out was when I went to the congressman's office, tried to get some assistance for him to help me get my prosthetic leg fixed. So finally the congressman had me the opportunity to go to Palo Alto in San Jose, California, where they finally fixed my prosthetic. If you need help and you seem to not get it anywhere, you should go see our congressman with the people he has there to help us veterans get what we need and what we deserve for doing our time in service for the freedom of our island and for our country.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, tasted their food and everything, we definitely used them again because their service and food is just awesome.
After Guam, si Rod's Gimpa introducing the 2020 Toyota Tacoma Access Cab T-Max. Este na mês, got may promo United Airlines, $1,000 United vouchers. After nananga, sabik sa something manono si Tacoma, Guam, Tacoma territory. Sexy Rod's ginagi Atkins Pro Toyota, 671-788-2584. Talumbray, go si Rod's, sinanagan sa 671-788-2584. After nananga. Let's go places.
Many accolades and celebrations. Buenas Micronesia, I'm Troy Torres. It is March 30, Monday, in the island of Guam. Welcome to our studios here in Tumon, and thank you for joining us tonight. We have, there's a whole bunch of news, and welcome to our audience on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining us. If you guys can see, oh, and YouTube, welcome. This is my new favorite picture in the whole wide world. It's, for 100 years, it's been called the Spanish flu. And I don't know, when this thing first came out, it was called the Wuhan virus. And all of a sudden it became the coronavirus, then it became COVID-19, and then the press corps in Washington, D.C. was like, President Trump, are you racist for saying it's the Chinese Wuhan virus? And he was all like, nope, it came from China. Well, this is just a little lightheartedness. There's a lot of serious news tonight. We're going to start with a very angry young couple who are the proud parents of a newborn from Guam Memorial Hospital. And this, there was an incident that happened at Guam Memorial Hospital a couple of days ago. Dr. Thomas Shea is the OBGYN for this couple, and he is just as enraged, we hear from these parents, as these parents are. And I'm just going to read to you a formal complaint that was filed today by these parents with Guam Memorial Hospital. To the GMH administrator absent any formalities, please allow me to get straight to the point of the matter. My name is Kay Rivera, and yesterday my newborn daughter was delivered at the GMH maternity ward. There was an egregious compromise of safety protocols which occurred as we were preparing to leave GMH with our newborn baby. After receiving the clearance from our primary physician, Dr. Thomas Shea, and attending pediatrics physician, Dr. Kyoko, we were advised to await the discharge paperwork from one of the nurses from the ward. Nurse Natasha Fabia, who was assisting and advising of our discharge procedures, had indicated that we, both parents, were required to proceed to patient registration to complete the discharge process. During our last 2 deliveries, both mom and baby were able to wait in room while I completed the discharge process. To my surprise, Nurse Natasha indicated that both parents had to both be present at the discharge desk. I questioned her direction, as in the past, all that was required to discharge was the presence of the mother and did not require the added presence of the father. Nurse Natasha insisted that it was part of the discharge procedure and was adamant that both parents had to be present. As you can imagine, given and due to the nature of the ongoing rapidly evolving health crisis, our anxiety levels in having to leave our newborn in such an unguarded environment, I adamantly argued that it was essential that I remain with our newborn as to ensure safety and exposure was applied and enforced. Even after minutes of stating my concerns, Nurse Natasha remained altruistic in her assertions that both parents had to proceed and be present during the administrator discharge procedures. We continued to articulate our concern for the safety of our newborn, but it appeared that our concerns were falling on deaf ears. Nurse Natasha then placed our newborn strapped into a newborn car seat on the nurse station table and assured us that she would watch over our newborn as we processed the discharge paperwork. We, given the current COVID-19 crisis, were obviously anxious as we reluctantly relinquished physical visibility and safety guardrails of our newborn. Upon completing the paperwork necessary for discharge, we returned to the maternity ward, and what can only be described as a parent's nightmare discovered that our newborn was moved from the nurse's station table to what can only be described as the ward's break or lunchroom. The room was occupied by employees and staff members of the ward and presumably other wards, and to our horror, were being jovial, careless, and unaware of a newborn in their direct presence. Not only did they not practice social distancing, they were also eating and disregarding the presence of a newborn in the lunchroom. These actions run counterintuitive to GMH's safety health protocols. This breach is exacerbated with the fast-moving, changing events with the world health care crisis. This appalling and unexcused breach of protocol has exposed our newborn to the deadly COVID-19 virus. I'm sure many, if not all, healthcare professionals will agree that the employee lunchroom nowhere is near the safety and health protocols of any hospitals. Even during normal times, this breach would be viewed as non-compliant, but add to the current health crisis, it was even more important that all safety and process and procedures be followed. It appears that your staff violated all safety procedures and had placed the health of my newborn in jeopardy. This is inexcusable, unacceptable, and above all, inhuman. The audacity and temerity of GMH's safety program is pervasive of its healthcare culture. As the health administrator, I also hold you equally responsible for this breach. With the rising COVID-19 cases on Guam, we should not and cannot ease our situational awareness, which includes far and beyond the safety of your patients. You are the frontline protectors of our citizens. You took an oath to place every patient health as your utmost priority. We hold high expectations from our only government hospital, especially when it comes to patient care and health, and in this instance, you failed. I don't know what the future holds for my newborn, and as a father, it grieves me that I allowed what I believed were trusted healthcare professionals to convince me that the safety of my newborn was their priority. In reality, it appears that eating lunch and laughing it up was theirs. I am demanding a response as well as an explanation of what was allowed to occur. This was literally a life or death situation because the last time I checked, the lunchroom was not a place to care for any newborn. And this was signed by Kevin Rivera, the father of that newborn baby. Such a sad situation. We do not have a response yet from Guam Memorial Hospital, but, well, as you'll see in a story that just published in Kandit News, it's not like the government of Guam's public relations branch has been all too open to responding to our questions, and you can see that on our website at www.candidnews.com. As for the situation with this newborn and the situation with the continuing presence of the maternity ward in operation at Guam Memorial Hospital, while it is the designated COVID-19 hospital on this island, it raises more awareness of requests by doctors to move the maternity ward over to Guam Regional Medical City, which is not currently taking COVID-19 patients to prevent the cross-contamination that would occur in the closed facility. So I'm pretty sure some of you have comments on this. Let me just go to that real fast before I go on to the next subject. But as I'm going over to that, according to the Joint Information Center in a video release by Governor's spokeswoman Crystal Paco earlier tonight or earlier today, there are 2 more confirmed COVID-19 cases on Guam for a total of 58. This does not include the count from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. It only includes the count outside of that. What we also noticed about the number of tests being conducted daily, it is dramatically reduced for Guam, and that is because when we listened to Governor Ralph Torres and Commonwealth Health Care Center's CEO Esther Muña earlier today in their breaking news conference, and we will provide some news about that in just a bit. But one of the things that they mentioned was that Governor Torres mentioned was that he placed a call to Governor Lulian Guerrero and asked the governor that testing for the cases that are coming out of Saipan be prioritized at the Guam Public Health Laboratory. And so if you've noticed that there's been a decline in the number of tests being run by the laboratory as of the past couple of days, in the news reports coming out of the Joint Information Center, all likelihood is that the reason is because we are now also testing for the cases in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Let me see your comments here, sorry. It took me a while, right, to get to that? Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Millie Luhana Faison says, I wouldn't take my baby and I would have taken my baby and left, screw the discharge. And so I think in this situation, Millie, the nurse was holding the baby as sort of like, you need to go and discharge, we're gonna hold your baby here, you cannot take your baby right now. I think that's what this couple was saying. Sylvia St. Nicholas says, thank you, Kandit News, for keeping us updated on what's happening here on our island of Guam and neighboring island, Saipan. Prayers for all. Yes, indeed, and prayers for the family of that 70-year-old man who died. I saw, many people sent me a video of the scene at Kanoa Hotel. I mean, I guess we'll just discuss that news right now. Earlier today, Governor Ralph Torres and Esther Muña at CHCC announced sadly that a man in his 70s, or who is 70 years old, who presented to the Commonwealth Health Centers on March 25 with symptoms of COVID-19. He had underlying health conditions. He was quarantined at the Kanoa Hotel shortly afterward, died today at the Kanoa Hotel. There was a video that went around, and it's just so heartbreaking. And if you see this video, I would just ask, out of courtesy for that family, do not share it and don't watch it either, because it is a very traumatizing scene. I made the mistake of pressing play, and I will never, ever, ever get the the woman who I believe is the wife of that man is seen in the video. Unable to contain her emotion as workers are bringing his body out of that hotel room. Don't watch the video. And probably the worst part of it is that because of her exposure, people couldn't console her. Anna Sabet says, GMH lost their marbles. They shouldn't need both parents for discharge. that nurse was out of line, and I'm sure that's going to be under investigation. James Howard says, dude, Kandit dominates the digital space while no other brand even comes close. Thank you, James. Thank you so much for that. Amy Jackson says, holding the baby hostage. Oh, I'm so getting anxious and want to cuss someone out for that shizu. John DeLangan says, no respect. Jeralee Menesus says, because of this virus, GMH should have arranged another way to discharge the patients with newborn where no one will be traveling the hospital just this time. One of the things that the parents told me in their correspondence with Kandit is that they didn't even tell them, as in the nurses told them to go and discharge, but didn't tell them where to go and what areas of the hospital to avoid as they would maze their way from the second floor over to, because it's the same floor as the emergency room and the ICU. And so they wanted to, as much as possible, avoid going through those areas or having to go through the elevator. They also told the father that that he had to go with the mother because the mother had to be in a wheelchair. But because they were too afraid to go into the elevator where, you know, it's a closed quarters, she just got out of the wheelchair and and I believe they went down the stairs to get to the discharge area. Thank you, Marisha Rabago. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jacob Nakamura. Yes, heartbreaking. Again, if you see that video, don't watch it because I have a feeling that it will traumatize you, and also just out of respect for the family of that man who died. Our condolences to the people of Saipan, Tinian, Rhoda, and the Northern Islands on such tragic news today. Our heartfelt condolences to the family of the man who died. Just one proviso, he was not a confirmed COVID-19 patient, at least not yet. I believe his tests are pending. He was a PUI or person under investigation who presented with the symptoms. And so the governor's office in Saipan wanted to get ahead of the issue because of all the rumors rolling around and, you know, the likelihood that he had COVID-19 was up there. The most important part of that news conference, however, aside, of course, from the tragic reporting of the death of that man, the most important thing that was said was by Dr. Beth Conan, the medical director of the Commonwealth Health Centers, and she said, let me get the direct quote so I'm not misquoting this because it was a very important thing that people, especially in Saipan, need to understand. And I don't know if the governor's office in Saipan placed this information front and center, but it absolutely should be the front and center portion of the news about this news conference. And she said, we may be having community transmission. Everyone needs to stay home. Everyone needs to wash their hands. It is not just in one village. Assume it is everywhere. Assume you have it. Assume everybody has it. That is the most important thing that was said in that news conference today. We may be having community transmission because this man doesn't have a travel history. If he didn't have a travel history, it means that he received, if he tests positive for the virus post-mortem, it means that he got it from within the community. It also means that if he had presented with symptoms and before he was quarantined, he was sick and he was out anywhere, there is the possibility that the virus had spread somewhere else as well. So I repeat what she says, everyone needs to stay home. Everyone needs to wash their hands. It is not just in one village. Assume it is everywhere. Assume you have it. Assume everybody has it. That is so important to our brothers and sisters in Saipan that if you heard anything in that news conference today that Governor Ralph Torres had, it was that line from Dr. Beth Conan, the medical director of the Commonwealth Health Centers. We may be having community transmission. Assume that you have it. Assume that everybody has it. Everyone needs to stay home. And to that end, Governor Ralph Torres has announced or has instituted that at 7 p.m. tonight, that was an hour and a half ago, a curfew has gone into effect in the Commonwealth. Everyone who is not exempt from this curfew must stay in their homes from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. Starting tomorrow, the Commonwealth law enforcement officials will be enforcing this curfew by handing out citations that come with, I believe they are fines and maybe even jail time for disobeying the governor's curfew order. Now, the only people who are exempted from this curfew are law enforcement officers, first responders, and private sector workers who have shifts that run into this curfew. Those are the only people who are exempt from this curfew. Now, people ask, what about when we're not in this curfew? How do we contain the spread when this curfew doesn't exist? So from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., basically during daylight hours. And the answer to that is stay home. You heard what Dr. Beth Conan said. She's the medical director for Commonwealth Healthcare Centers. She says, we may be having community transmission. Everyone needs to stay home. Everyone needs to wash their hands. It is not just in one village. Assume it is everywhere. Assume you have it. Assume everybody has it. I keep repeating it because that's just how important this is. Let's go back to your comments on this. Jacob Nakamura says, people stay home, just stay home. Carmen Cabrera Pangolinan says, yes, agree to that. Jacob says, and Clyde, who needs to go get his donuts. Too bad, Clyde. Maybe you can lose a few pounds.
You gotta get there before 7.
James Howard says something very important to some of the news that we're actually going to have tonight. We're going to bring you first a proposal that a group of doctors on Guam are working on to the governor about how we can get ourselves out of this mess. But James Howard says, Troy, by next week, Guam community spread will start to peak. We are in the danger zone. In 2 weeks, we will know if we succeeded in stopping the spread by staying home. People stay home. I'm still seeing stuff about people having parties. Okay, the stay home only works if you don't actually invite people over to your home. And that includes your family members. So like, let's say at the start of this thing, you were at your Chatmax house and you have family members in some other house. The responsible thing for you to have done would have been to stay with your Chatmax at your Chatmax house so that you don't selfishly bring that virus that you may have been exposed to your family at the family's house. But that's just an extreme example of what you should have done. There should be no family parties where you are inviting other members of your family who live in other homes over to your home. There should be no playing of ping pong with your neighbors in the garage. There should be none of that. If you guys want to talk, this is like the most important time that we've ever had the internet was now. You know, there's WhatsApp, there's Zoom. You want to gossip about someone, you want to talk smack about someone in your house, pick up that phone and do it that way. There is absolutely no need, no necessity whatsoever to come out of your house, except if you need to get some sunlight in your yard, or if you're gonna walk down the road by yourself with the people in your home only to get some exercise and come back home without gathering or meeting with anybody else or getting within 6 feet of anybody else along that path. That is what this home quarantine should mean. And there are a lot of people who are not abiding by that. So when we talk about this infectious curve, we will see soon enough whether, the efforts that are being made by those who are following these orders by the governor actually is working, and what kind of damage is being done by those who are not following what the government has been telling us and what medical experts have been telling us. Now, if you're worried that the food and stuff and I don't know if anyone's still on this toilet tissue kick, but we are far from running out of toilet tissue in this house, and we only had like the regular amount, okay? So, yes. Do you have your microphone on, Cello, so people can hear what the funny things you're saying? Eric said, wash your dog and people. If you're worried about food running out or toilet tissue or whatever running out at the stores, which none of us should really be at unless we absolutely, like it is a necessity that we need to get food or toiletries or whatever, don't worry. The island is not going to run out. Saipan, Tinian, Rhoda, the Northern Islands, all of Micronesia, in fact, are not going to run out of these supplies of food and water and toiletries and all the necessities. Kotex, toothpaste. Some of y'all need toothpaste because the ship is in. APL docked in Guam yesterday after it offloaded containers in Saipan. Let's take a look at what we have of the action that happened yesterday. So that was APL. APL, of course, one of the two shippers to the islands. They ship to all of the Marianas and most of Micronesia. They provide our food, our toiletries, our clothes, everything that we could ever need. They ship it to Guam, and thankfully, the ship was recently in Saipan, and yesterday was in Guam. The truck should have been going out yesterday, today, tomorrow, and then it will head off to elsewhere in Micronesia. We'll try to get more information from the folks over at APL, but thank you, APL, and all of your men and women, and all of the people, all of the men and women who are working at the front lines of the distribution centers and the grocery stores who put themselves in harm's way in order to make sure that we still, and you have to think about some of these stores, they are not making money. They're not. They're paying their employees, and they're not making enough money to pay their employees, keep the power on, pay their rent. Luckily, some of those things have been suspended. Some of those payments have been suspended to help some of these small businesses to survive during these times, but most of them are making sacrifices to stay open because they understand that people need to get food, groceries, all that stuff. Now, as we traverse this entire COVID-19 thing, as we have our own worries and anxieties, there are still stupid people out there who are placing an additional burden on our frontliners, like the Guam Police Department, by committing crimes that are just so stupid. This came from the Guam Police Department today. Today at around 10:45 a.m., officers assigned to the Dededo Precinct Command responded to East Gadanero Street in Jigo relative to a male shooting a pellet gun at passing cars. Idiot. Preliminary reports suggest that upon arrival, officers were able to locate the suspect as well as witnesses who identified 61-year-old. That is 61 years that this guy has not learned to stop being an idiot. Imagine that. 61-year-old Bolan Nirelsao. What? Nirelsao. I'm a sorry excuse for applying. As the responsible party. Bolan Nirelsao was later transported to the Dededo Precinct Command, where he was arrested for the following offenses: aggravated assault, reckless conduct, criminal mischief. He was later booked and confined at the Department of Corrections. As a result of the incident, an individual was transported to the Guam Regional Medical City for treatment and care relative to injuries sustained. The case has been forwarded to the Office of the Attorney General for prosecution. Now, as Bolen Sao was being stupid, there's a group of doctors on our island who have been putting together. Oh, I'm so stupid. I didn't even freaking leave the thing. Oh, I think this is it. No, that's not it. They put together a plan. There it is. No, that's not it. Son of a gun. Hold on, I have to go to my... They put together a plan for the government of Guam to consider on how we can contain and reverse the infectious curve of COVID-19. And this group of doctors include, it's a 22-page draft proposal. I can't share the full proposal with you because it's not finalized yet. There are still sections that need to be inserted, but I read all 22 pages. I can't tell you that I understood it all because I'm not a doctor, and there's some like trigonometry that they did, and I just haven't done trigonometry in a very, very, very long time. But the doctors involved are Akimoto, De Bruin, Kim, Sonko, Delas Reyes, San Nicolas, Perez, and Perez on behalf of American Medical Center. And they provide like this, like I'm gonna steal from this. You can go ahead and cast to my screen so people can see what's here. They provide this basic breakdown of what happened since January in Guam. They have this formula for how we can estimate the number of cases that are confirmed and the infectious curve based on the current projections or the current trajectory. And then they go into what about the unknowns? They even have a formula that will determine how many people in our community actually have COVID-19 but don't know it, both symptomatic and asymptomatic. They put all this stuff together. This is like smart stuff. Here's like an entire history that plans out what happened and how our government was not listening to medical experts from the start when they had some very good information and very good advice for what the government should have done, both the executive and the legislative branches, and how in the beginning they failed on this. Now we're just sort of catching up and playing a hopefully not fruitless game of catch up to this virus in order to flatten the infectious curve. And then they go into how the national response to this might not necessarily apply so well to Guam. And what we need to be doing is looking at Singapore and Korea and Taiwan as places where we should take some best practices and some advice from on how to handle this coronavirus situation. And many of the things that were done in Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore are things that many of you have been suggesting in your comments and in your posts for weeks now. Same stuff, like sort of no-brainer, common sense. This is what should have been done. What Dr. Akimoto and his gang over at American Medical City are saying is, let's adopt some of this stuff. And so let me read to you some of the stuff that's here. It is... Here it says, additionally, even with a negative, I'm just reading some excerpts from this, okay? Even with a negative test result, physicians should make the determination of whether or not a patient is likely to have COVID-19 and thus determine if an in-home quarantine with their family unit 14 days after the end of symptom presentation is prudent. During the in-home quarantine, neither the patient nor their family should be allowed to leave. The patient's family should have food brought to them, and they should receive a small stipend for bills such as rent. Quick tests, unfortunately, cannot be used to directly confirm patients have recovered from COVID-19 because they test for antibodies that exist in both sick and recovered patients. Patients, therefore, must test negative on a PCR test and be contained in a 14-day quarantine after the cessation of symptoms before being released to rejoin the public. Here's another one. CT scans and chest x-rays can act as an additional filter to detect asymptomatic cases of the novel coronavirus. Instead of, because we have only so few test kits, they're saying, why don't we conduct CT scans and chest x-rays? CT scans or chest x-rays in combination with blood work can be used to screen asymptomatic close contacts of a known case to detect asymptomatic carriers or those the known case has infected. Here's a chart. I don't know if you can see the full chart of what should be done, what they recommend should be done for one category of people is healthcare workers, and the other category of people is the less vulnerable population of more vulnerable if lack of capacity presents with symptoms. So the general population who present with symptoms or who have underlying health conditions or who are presenting with moderate symptoms, you test with a quick test, and if negative, quarantine at home until 14 days after symptoms have gone away. If positive, quarantine at separate location with other mild or moderate cases until a negative PCR test and 14 days after the end of symptoms. Then identify close contacts. Then screen using blood tests and CT scans, chest x-rays. If nothing, quarantine at home for 14 days. But if there is something showing in those chest x-rays or CT scans, if close contacts have symptoms, do the quick test. If positive, quarantine with other mild or moderate cases and repeat steps 4 through 6. If negative, quarantine at home for 14 days. So this is a more aggressive quarantine that they're calling for, and a more aggressive round of testing that Dr. Akimoto and his colleagues are calling for. They say that in South Korea, they've developed an app called Corona 100M that notifies cell phone users when they have been within 100 meters of a confirmed positive case. You would think, right? Like that. This is kind of something that people have been asking for. They've been asking for information on where these coronavirus patients live so that they can stay away from those places. Cello, you going to say something?
My mic died.
Oh, your mic died? We'll say it and I'll repeat it for you.
I was going to say, it's rock solid logic.
It's rock solid logic? Nice. Here's something. When a confirmed case presents, cell phone and credit card data should also be used to trace their recent locations and confirmed contacts. Close contacts should be identified and screened for biomarkers of COVID-19. Sounds easy enough. I can imagine that if something like this were implemented, drug dealers would not want to become sick with COVID-19. Those are just some. I can't wait for this plan to come out and for people to see what this. It's a very. I think I'm not a doctor or anything, but it makes sense to me. It looks like a very good plan, and hopefully it will be available soon. Now, can we just take a short break just so that I've been talking too much. Just 3 minutes, guys. We'll be right back.
A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Hi, my name is Eddie Santos. I'm a retired Army Sergeant with more than 23 years, and I am a disabled vet. I've been all over the place trying to get assistance for my disability. And as for right now, the only person that seemed to help me out was when I went to the congressman's office. Tried to get some assistance for him to help me get my prosthetic leg fixed. So finally the congressman had me the opportunity to go to Palo Alto in San Jose, California, where they finally fixed my prosthetic If you need help and you seem to not get it anywhere, you should go see our congressman with the people he has there to help us veterans get what we need and what we deserve for doing our time in service for the freedom of our island and for our country.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
After Guam, si Rod's Gimpa introducing the 2020 Toyota Tacoma Access Cab T-Max. Este na mês, gasto mo yung promo ng United Airlines, $1,000 United vouchers. After nananga, sabik sa sating mamanono si Tacoma, Guam, Tacoma territory. Sexy Rod's ginagi Atkins Pro Toyota, 671-788-2584. Talong bright, go si Rod's, sinanagan sa 671-788-2584. After nananga, let's go places.
Many accolades and celebrations. I'm looking at the comments, and Jacob Nakamura with Kandit News, his gift game is still going strong. Angela Casares says, are you surprised that the government puts politics over world pandemic virus? I'm not surprised at all. Not one bit. Disgusted? Yes. Surprised? No. Rodney Cook says to Annie, if praying works, go to church. Some God will sort it out. I actually go, I virtually attend. I don't know why I did virtually like an idiot. I virtually attend the daily 12:10 p.m. Mass on a Dulce Nombre de Maria Cathedral Facebook page. It helps. Believe me, it helps. I can't see it's this gift stuff. James Howard says the new COVID-19 test, Troy, the president announced today, only takes 5 minutes. They are sending it out ASAP. Oh, excellent. I bet you Guam hasn't even asked for it yet. Judy May Kittigwa says food for coronavirus to boost immune system. These 7 items must be consumed daily: lemon, ginger, garlic, turmeric powder, spinach, organic chicken, turmeric roots to clean lungs, throat, eyes, boiled pills. So some good advice from Judy May. Brad Hewitt says, throw the legal rights of individuals away, it sounds like. Yeah, that cell phone thing, that I did message Dr. Akimoto, and I was like, I think they'll need a warrant first. Samantha Loskatal Limsialko says, that sounds like a violation of privacy laws, unconstitutional. I think we're talking about the cell phone thing, right? James Howard says, damn, they're going to see all the porn I want to watch. Damn you, Corona. All right. So there is, I don't know on what side of the fence you're on this, but either good news or bad news coming out of the Department of Education today, the Guam Department of Education today. And mind you, this is the result of a major collaborative effort where the people who collaborated, and as I understand this is hundreds of people who collaborated from their homes using Zoom, WhatsApp, email. They never met in a single unit because of this whole social distancing thing. These are members of the curriculum and instruction and the superintendent's staff, the Board of Education members, the superintendent, the deputy superintendent of curriculum and instruction, Dr. Joe Sanchez, parents, students, teachers, the GFT, the union, Sanjay Sharma, its president, and many more people who have been collaborating over the past couple of weeks to come up with a game plan on the question, what if school doesn't reopen? Now, to answer the question, what if school does reopen and there's a month left, Dr. Joe Sanchez, in a working group session with the Board of Education today, did spell out that teachers are already very highly trained on what to do to prioritize the standards-based curriculum so that they're not trying to cram 2 months of learning into 1 month's time, but they're going to pick and choose the most important lessons that the students would need to go through in case school does reopen for the final month of the school year. But if, and this is probably a most likely, if schools do not reopen, what is the plan? And they answered that plan today based on the collaboration that's happened over the past couple of weeks and what is most equitable. And they even included a very big part of this plan, included a poll that was taken among students. You would not be promoted. In case school officials will contact parents and things will be handled on a case-by-case basis. For high schools, so this is what's going to happen. If you, oh, and I'm sorry, pardon me. For the kindergarten through 8th grade, your grades for the third quarter will become your grades for the semester. And again, if you have a 59% or below in any of those courses or whatever, you're going to get a 60%, unless it was previously determined that you were not going to be promoted. For high schools, for each of your classes in the third quarter of basically right before the quarter that you were in when the COVID-19 crisis happened, the grade you were getting for third quarter is going to be your grade for the semester. If your grade was a 59% or below, you're going to get a 60%, which is passing, unless you either A, never showed up for that class, or B, you showed up and you never turned in any work. Let this be a lesson for slackers everywhere. That a global pandemic can happen, and that fourth quarter that you were relying on for to make up for your third quarter failure, like if you didn't go to class one day and if you didn't turn in any work for the days that you did go into class, honestly, you deserve that F. Like, just honest to God, straight up, you deserve that F. And you should not, don't let me hear you complain, please.
Right.
Because you will sound so stupid to me. And anyway, so if you're an AP honors class, and because you're supposed to get that additional 10% if you work for it, right, in AP honors, you will automatically get that additional 10%, except if you're an AP honors in the third quarter and you got a 59% or below, then you will not get that 10%. You do not pass go. You do not get a passing grade in that class. Now, for those who are seniors and meet the graduation requirements, if you have not completed your service learning hours, then in all likelihood, that will be waived. It is pending either the governor's suspension of the service learning hours law. Good job, Judy Wampat, with your stupid service learning hours law. Now we have to change it in the middle of a crisis. Gosh, Judy Wampat's so dumb. It was former Speaker Judy Wampat's law. Of course it was, because it's a dumb law. So anyway, either the governor needs to suspend the law or the legislature needs to amend the law to allow this. But what the curriculum and instruction people at DOE are recommending is that those service learning hours be waived for the remainder of the school year, and those students who meet the graduation requirements otherwise can proceed to graduate. Will there be graduation ceremonies? Folks, we don't know. We don't know. If your graduation was today, the answer is no, because we're not allowed to be congregating in places. Are you allowed to have a graduation party? Again, If your graduation party was supposed to be today, the answer would be no. What will happen in May and June, that's a whole different story. We don't know just yet. It all depends on everybody's ability to listen and to stay home. And speaking of the legislature, and this is breaking news, the legislature is supposed to go into session tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Kandit, if this legislative session happens, is going to carry this session for you because it's important. And the reason it's important is because our congressman has told us that in order for Guam to avail of a couple of very significant programs from the federal economic rescue package signed by President Trump a couple of days ago, because of the uniqueness of Guam's situation and some of the territory's situations with the direct cash assistance program, that's the $1,200 per adult, $500 per children thing, and the pandemic unemployment insurance program. Both of those require some local legwork in order for you all who qualify for it according to the federal guidelines can get those checks. For the cash assistance program, the issue may be privacy laws that prohibit the Department of Revenue and Taxation from providing the IRS with the tax rolls for tax years 2018 and 2019 so that the direct cash assistance checks can be made. That's yet to be seen, and we're waiting for a response from Senator Therese Terlaki, who also is a lawyer, to let us know what's going on with that. But more importantly, the pandemic unemployment insurance program. Because Guam previously was not a part of the nation's unemployment insurance program, we have to come up with our own set of local guidelines that is acceptable to the U.S. Department of Labor. And in order for that to happen, that means we need to create a program. And according to Congressman Mike Nicholas, to do that, we would need the legislature to come into session and to create this program under law. Now, I'm in receipt of a letter from Governor Lulian Guerrero to Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes in the Guam legislature, saying that she's got this and that the legislature doesn't need to go into session. And the only reason I'm wary of this is because this is not the first time the governor would be wrong if she's wrong in this. And I worry that if the legislature does not need to do what needs to be done on their end to avail, for you all to avail of this federal cash assistance and unemployment checks, that this is just gonna take longer and longer, all because our governor might be getting this wrong. Remember when she went on the Patty Arroyo show a few days ago and started to talk about the federal assistance program, the congressman had to come out and say, no, hold on, Governor. That information that you're giving out is wrong. Let me give the people of Guam the correct information. And so I don't know who's advising her. And hopefully the governor is right, hopefully, but she is asking Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes to not have the legislature go into session tomorrow. We'll see whether the legislature has a mind of its own, which it should have under our Organic Act, and conducts itself in a professional and efficient way so that the laws that need to be enacted are enacted tomorrow. And hopefully the governor has enough sense to put away her pride and her arrogance and sign those measures into law if they are good measures, in fact. We'll have more on that when 10 a.m. rolls around tomorrow and Kandit is able to, Cello, I forgot to ask you. So that's cool, we can cast it live? Okay, good. Thank you. And finally, earlier today, did we get to use all of the images and video that I sent you today?
Everything except for the Rafet and the PSA from AMC.
Oh, we didn't play that in the beginning? I'm so sorry, guys. There's a PSA. It's a very short PSA from American Medical Center. I should have asked you to play it when we were discussing Dr. Vince Akimoto. But before we get to talking about Governor Ralph Torres and his minions, I want to play this PSA from American Medical Center.
For patients experiencing mild cold or cough symptoms that can be managed with home care, we urge you to isolate at home. If your symptoms get worse and you start to experience difficulty breathing, that would elevate you to the next step of contacting your primary doctor or going into an urgent care facility. American Medical Center is one of the urgent care facilities on island treating urgent symptoms. Our staff is performing COVID-19 screening and assessments at all our locations. Anyone that may be experiencing any flu-like symptoms, cough, cold, congestion, fever, or diarrhea will be routed to our Manilao location. This is essential to mitigate any exposure as much as possible. If a patient answers yes to any of the COVID-19 questions, we ask that they remain in their vehicle and are guided to a designated parking area where they will be further assessed and screened by our nursing staff. We are asking the community to respect our staff here at AMC as we conduct screening and patient assessment using the COVID-19 questionnaire. On behalf of the providers, they would like to inform the community that now is the absolute most critical time to isolate. Avoid going out in the public in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Be careful in grocery stores, gas stations, and when picking up takeouts.
That's Johnny's Mully, Frances Nickdow. She's the nurse manager over at American Medical Center. Isn't she beautiful? She is. Have you met her yet?
Yes.
I haven't met her yet. I'm dying to meet her. And her voice is so soothing, right?
It is.
I bet you she's the one who told Dr. Akimoto to go home that day and forced him to get the coronavirus test. Because I think she's in charge of the staff there, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the nursing staff over at American Medical Center. Anyway, so earlier today, when news broke about the death in Saipan, normally, Kandit has a whole range of templates that we use for the images that a lot of times we like to break news on memes because it's a pretty effective way of getting information around. And so we have a whole bunch of, all these different templates that we can use. We have a whole bunch of pictures for Saipan, pictures of Governor Ralph Torres that are not flattering. But we decided that, on the somber occasion and the tragic occasion of the what might be the first COVID death in the CNMI, that we were going to keep it extremely professional. And so we used the governor's office banner. And I'll get to that in just a second. I mean, we added to it and we put breaking news from the CNMI or from the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Office of the Governor. And, we put first suspected COVID-19 death, et cetera, right? And then the curfew information on it. And then we also put, like we do in all of our memes, our Kandit logo on it. And I really didn't think anything of it because it was professionally done. It did not take any swipes at the governor's office in the CNMI, even though they went out of their way to not invite us to that news conference that they had, as if we weren't going to get the information anyway. So they're just doing themselves a disservice in a time like this, becoming highly political like that and waging battles like that during a crisis says a whole lot more about the people at the governor's office in the CNMI than it does about us. Because we're just going to get the information out anyway, and we don't need them to invite us to any news conference. But it is a disservice to their people that they don't open themselves up to the scrutiny of the media and the questions that we have for the governor's office there and for the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation. Seeing as how we've been covering CNMI news in a very focused way about anti-corruption stuff and financial stuff, but of course we want to provide as much accurate information as possible to the people of the CNMI, since we have an audience from there now. They are part of our Kandit Land, Kandit family, and we're very grateful for that. So we put that. Do you have that meme? I want to show people what that meme looks like. Hold on, let me just get it out, guys, so you can see it for yourselves. I think I can find it on. Oh, here we go. You can go ahead and cast to my screen. So there. It's pretty simple. There's nothing political about that. It's just the information. And to the left of the screen, you see the seal of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, which is a public image that is not owned by anybody and does not have a copyright. And the images of the islands of, I think that's part of the seal, is the islands that are on the right side, that sort of like a curve on the right side of the circle thing, right? Yep. And then that Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands Office of the Governor is part of their banner. That's their banner. Again, it's a government agency, so it's not anything that can be copyrighted, and it is part of the public domain. So Carol Peter Hosano, the wife of John Hosano, we did a story about him, and she might be upset about the crackhead story we did about her husband, and maybe this is why she's lashing out, or the story we did on her twin brother, Representative Marco Peters' use of taxpayer funds on the allowances that he was taking, the tens of thousands of dollars that he was taking and refused to provide receipts on. Maybe she's upset about that because she went on a rampage on Facebook and said that we do not have permission to use this seal. This is illegal. How did we get this? Carol, I want to show you how we got this. It's actually pretty simple. There's the Facebook office of the governor of the CNMI Facebook page. It's their public banner. So I would rethink your statements. And it's not just Carol Hosano, idiot. I also got a call from my good friend Ed Arreola up in Saipan, who got a call from the governor's spokeswoman, Kevin Bautista. And Ed said, Troy, I just got a call. Kevin Bautista just called me, and he said, can you talk to your friend? And I said, which one? He goes, you know, your friend from Guam, Troy Torres. He's using the governor's office, blah, 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 for the news thing. I was like, Ed, that is in the public domain. Not only is the seal like in the public domain itself, but it is like double in the public domain because they put those numbnuts on Facebook. And according to federal law and Supreme Court decisions, all images on Facebook are part of the public domain. So if they don't want it to be part of the public domain, maybe they should take it down. Or maybe they should try and get it copyrighted and then have the people over at Revenue and Tax laugh at them because they cannot copyright government images like that. And since they have a problem with the law all the time in many other instances, I wouldn't expect them to know what the law is, even about their logo. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. That's Eric Rosario. Good night.